Good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Arundhati Ramnan and with me is Archana Solanki. Hi Archana.
Hi Arundhati. Let's take our viewers to the top headlines of the day. The International Monetary Fund hikes India's FY24 GDP forecast by 20 basis points to 6.1%. Also hikes its global growth outlook for this year to 3%, but also warns the world is not out of the woods and the growth is likely to remain slow.
US Federal Reserve could hike rates one more time according to a CNBC survey as officials gather for a two-day meeting. Wall Street expects rates to stay elevated for the medium term and monetary easing is only likely in 2024.
Tata Motors reports a 40% jump in first quarter revenue. Jaguar and Land Rover sales rise 57%. The company announces the conversion of DVR shares to ordinary shares. 10 DVR shares will fetch 7 Tata Motors shares.
Bajaj Auto reports a 29% jump in revenue and 42% rise in profits for the first quarter. Margins also expand to 19%, but this is slightly below estimates. Stock sees some profit booking.
LNT largely beats estimates in the first quarter. Order book crosses 4 lakh crore rupees for the first time. Board approves 10,000 crore rupees share buyback at 2,000 rupees a share.
The largest institutional investor in crisis hit Byju says poor corporate governance prompted its exit from the board. Dutch investor process contradicts the previous statement from Byju, which claimed investors resigned from the board as their shareholding fell below the minimum threshold.
Tata Steel is not keen on acquiring steel assets, so Vedanta and NMDC, says CEO TV Narendran as he bets on organic growth. This is in contrast with JSW Steel's game plan. Sajjan Jindal has expressed interest in acquiring NMDC assets.
Lok Sabha passes a bill that aims to boost transparency and accountability of cooperative societies amid sloganeering from opposition benches. Prime Minister Modi reportedly slams the opposition as directionless, derides the new grouping India, says India is mentioned even in East India Company, Indian Mujahideen, Popular Front of India.
China sacks Foreign Minister Qin Gang, who has been missing for a month. Wang Yi returns as Foreign Minister after 7 months. Qin Gang was last seen in public on 25th of June. No reason was given for Qin's removal. Chinese media reports the order was signed by President Xi Jinping.
Elon Musk's decision to rebrand Twitter as X could land in legal trouble. Hundreds of companies, including Meta and Microsoft, already have intellectual property rights to the same letter.
Right, first up, the day's market action. Range-bound session saw the Wall Street end flat. Nifty ended the session below that 19,700 mark with a slight positive bias. Metals were the star performers, with that index soaring close to 3%, while mid-caps outperformed the blue chips. Banks underperformed.
The International Monetary Fund has hiked India's GDP estimates for FY24. This on the backing of strong domestic investment and stronger than expected growth in the fourth quarter of the current year, 2022. The major financial agency also hiked the outlook for global growth, but also issued a warning. Ritu Singh is here with all of the details. Ritu?
Well, the pandemic is behind us. The banking turmoil in US and Switzerland we saw erupt in March was swiftly curtailed, and economic activity in 2023 has been resilient so far. So signs of global economic progress are undeniable, but it is too early to celebrate, with challenges still clouding the horizon. That is the sum and substance of IMF's latest World Economic Outlook report. So let me start with India, where growth is expected to slow down from an estimated 7.2% in FY23 to 6.1% in FY24. But this projection is 20 basis points higher than the April forecast and reflects momentum from a stronger than expected growth in the fourth quarter of 2022 as a result of stronger domestic investment. Thereafter, India's growth is seen recovering to 6.3% by FY25. But if you take the FY24 growth estimate, that is still lower than RBI's projection of 6.5%. On a calendar year basis, India's growth is seen at 6.6% in 2023 and 5.8% the next year. Now, on the global front, growth is estimated to slow down from last year's 3.5% to 3% this year and the next. Compared with projections in the April update, growth has actually been upgraded by 20 basis points for 2023 with no change for 2024. But that said, this forecast remains well below the historical annual average of 3.8%, and the balance of risks to this outlook remain tilted firmly to the downside. Advanced economies are expected to drive the decline in growth from 2022 to this year, where growth is seen slowing to 1.5% in 2023 and 1.4% in the next year. In emerging market and developing economies, the growth outlook is broadly stable for these 2 years. On the inflation front, global headline inflation is set to fall from an annual average of 8.7% last year to 6.8% in 2023 and 5.2% in 2024, but remain above the pre-pandemic levels of 3.5% or thereabouts. Core inflation is seen declining more gradually, expected at 6% in this year and 4.7% in 2024. But overall, inflation is projected to remain above target in 96% of the economies with inflation targets in 2023 and in 89% of those economies in 2024.
Thank you, Ritu. U.S. Federal Reserve could hike rates one more time, according to a CNBC survey, as officials gather for a two-day meeting. Wall Street expects rates to stay elevated for the medium term, and monetary easing is only likely in 2024. Majority respondents want Fed to keep rates at the current levels if inflation inches above 3%. However, in case of a mild recession, 52% would like Fed to lower rates. CNBC's Steve Leisman has more on this.
You try to figure out what the central bank's going to do under the conventional wisdom, but also under different scenarios like higher inflation or a recession. And we asked our respondents to the CNBC Fed survey to do just that, game out the Fed. First, I want to show you the baseline. The outlook is for the terminal rate at 5.48%. That would happen in September. That's essentially one more, maybe a little bit more hike from here at 25 basis points. End the year at 539, about where they'll be. And then you have cuts built in for 2024, 422, a little bit more than the Fed itself has built in. But what if the U.S. inflation rate falls or hits that 3% level and maintains that level? What should the Fed do? 13% say raise rates to get inflation to 2%. 71% say keep rates at the current level above 5%. 16% saying cut rates below 5%. And if it's a modest or mild recession with inflation still above the 2% target, what should the Fed do then? 52% expect the Fed to lower rates, 39% say reduce the balance sheet runoff, and 19% say stop the balance sheet runoff. So not real conviction there that the Fed has the back of the markets in the event of recession. Mark Vittner, chief economist at Piedmont Crescent Capital, writes, if we get a soft landing, the Fed will likely have to push interest rates higher. If the economy slips into recession, they will only be able to cut rates grudgingly and modestly. So there are two ways for the Fed to approach inflation above target. Passively, by keeping rates at what it thinks is a restrictive enough level, or actively, which is to keep pushing up rates. Right now, most think the Fed will be a little bit more patient and take the passive approach, assuming it's reached a restrictive level with the funds rate.
So Leisman there with what we can expect from the US Fed. But in earnings action, Tata Motors reported a very strong set of numbers in the first quarter. And this was largely led by the strong numbers clocked in by JLR. Now, the company has announced the conversion of DVR shares to ordinary shares. Sonia Shenoy joins us now with the details. Sonia, take us through the highlights of those numbers.
Well, thanks a lot for that. It was a very strong showing from the Jaguar Land Rover business, which aided the overall numbers as well. A big beat on the numbers, both on the top line as well as the bottom line for Jaguar Land Rover. Consolidated business revenues went up over 42%. The margins have improved 700 basis points, coming in at 14.4%. And it's a turnaround quarter for Tata Motors. On a year-on-year basis, the company posted a net profit of 3,200 crores compared to a loss of 5,000 crores same time last year. A large portion of this was due to Jaguar Land Rover, where the revenues went up 57%. The EBITDA went up 960 basis points year-on-year, coming in at 16.3%. And the EBIT margins have improved to 8.6% versus 6.3% last quarter. Not just that, the net debt for JLR has also come down to £2.5 billion as on the 30th of June. Now, the company says they expect the demand to sequentially improve in FY24 for the CV business, and the net automotive debt has reduced to 41,700 crores. But the important bit for Tata Motors really is that now if you are a DVR shareholder, then for 10 DVR shares that you hold, you will get 7 Tata Motors shares, So there will no more be Tata Motors DVR. It will all be, converted into Tata Motors shares, which is a big positive for Tata Motors shareholders.
Thank you, Sonia. Bajaj Auto reported a 29% jump in revenue and 42% rise in profits for the first quarter. Margins also expanded to 19%, but this is slightly below estimates. The stock saw some profit booking.
General Motors has reported a jump in second quarter profits on the back of strong consumer demand and cost cutting. The US automaker's profits rose 52% from last year, while revenues grew 25%. Deliveries also grew in both North America and China compared to the same time last year. The company also raised its guidance for 2023 and announced plans to increase cost-cutting measures.
LNT has largely met estimates in the first quarter. The company's order book has crossed 4 lakh crore rupees for the first time. The board has approved 10,000 crore rupees share buyback at 3,000 rupees a share. Vivek Iyer joins us. Vivek, take us through the numbers.
Well, L&T has just come out with its results. On the face of it, a very good set of numbers, very strong top-line growth. And what's actually going to surprise the street very positively is the very strong ordering intake that the company has gone ahead and given to the exchanges. So first, let's have a look at the headline numbers themselves. Revenues much above what our poll was, 47,882 versus our poll of just around 40,550 crore. So a significant beat coming in as far as the top line is concerned. Management says that the top line growth was actually aided by execution of healthy opening order book as far as the projects as well as the manufacturing portfolio is concerned. Now coming to the core EBITDA is coming in at close to 4,869 crore, above a poll of close to 4,577 crore. Margins, however, are a miss, and that is going to be a sore point. Analysts, however, did pencil in and did caution that margin recovery could be back-ended towards the second half, and that seems to be playing out as far as L&T's core margins are concerned. Profitability too above the poll, coming in close to 2,493 crore versus our estimate of 2,150 crore. Now the key point, as far as this particular result was concerned, was the buyback. So it's a very large buyback. 3,000 rupees per share is what the management has given as far as the buyback price is concerned, and the size of the buyback is close to 10,000 crore. Apart from that, the company has also given a special dividend of 6 rupees a share as far as the FY23 is concerned. And lastly, the order wins of 65,520 crore at the group level is up almost 57% on a year-on-year basis, with 40% of orders coming in from the international book, which is quite strong.
So largely inline set there. Thank you so much for those details, Vivek. Asian Paints largely met street in the first quarter, even as revenue growth of 7% was just shy of street estimates. Now the company's net profit rose 52%, while its revenue from operations during the quarter jumped more than 6%. The company clocked in a double-digit volume growth, and EBITDA beat expectations even after 41 crore rupees one-off hit.
Global investment firm Prosus has released a statement citing why it resigned from Byju's board. The Dutch investor said that it had resigned from Byju's board because even as the edtech grew considerably over time, its reporting and governance structures did not evolve sufficiently for a company of that scale. Aishwarya Anand joins us with more details. Aishwarya.
That's right. Byju's shareholder Prosus today released a statement explaining why Russell Dreissen's stock stepped down from the board last month. The Dutch investor, which holds less than 10% of Byju's total stake and recently marked down the valuation of that investment, said its decision to exit was taken after it became clear that the executive leadership at Byju's regularly disregarded advice and recommendations relating to strategic, operational, legal and corporate governance matters. Prosus said that even as the edtech grew considerably over time, its reporting and governance structures did not evolve sufficiently for a company of that scale. Now, this is the first time that one of the 3 non-promoter directors on the board of Byju's, who resigned in June, has publicly revealed reasons for exiting the company. Now remember, on June 22, G.V. Ravishankar, representing Peak 15, formerly Sequoia India, Vivian Wu from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative and Russell Dreisen stock representing Prosus resigned from the board, leaving Byju Ravindran, his wife Divya Gokulnath and brother Riju Ravindran and Deepta A.R. on the board. At the time of these exits, Byju's underplayed it, saying that they took the decision due to the shareholding of the investors falling below a certain level. Whereas today, in response to the note from Prosus, the edtech giant said, and I quote, We have noted the observations of our valued investors. We have updated our shareholders about definitive steps taken to improve corporate governance and financial reporting. End quote. Now, the country's most valued startup is under pressure to improve its reporting and corporate governance standards after the resignation of its auditor and the exit of its 3 investors from the board. The company is in the process of reconstituting its board and is also looking to onboard independent members soon. Now, in the past 2 weeks, Byju's appointed former SBI chairperson Rajneesh Kumar, early backer TV Mohandas Pai, to its board advisory committee. Back to you.
So trouble there for Byju's. Thank you so much for those details, Aishwarya. Railway ticketing website IRCTC has said that ticketing services have now been restored after being down for almost 3 hours. Earlier this morning, the booking platform said that the site was down due to technical reasons. However, it informed users that the booking from third-party platforms like Amazon and Make My Trip remained possible.
In the aviation space, SpiceJet soared in trade today as the Director General of Civil Aviation took the airline off enhanced surveillance. This according to DGCA sources who say around 51 spot checks were conducted on 23 aircraft across 11 locations pan-India. The aviation regulator made 95 observations and suggested the findings to be routine in nature.
On to a CNBC exclusive, the free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom needs to pick pace at bureaucratic level. That's the word coming from industrialist and chairman of the Hinduja Group, Gopi Chand Hinduja. Speaking to CNBC, he also blamed bureaucracy as the biggest hurdle for investments in both countries. Take a look.
Piyush Goyal, our commerce minister, last week was here. And I think from 26 or 24 issues, majority has been resolved, but still some are pending. You know why? Bureaucracy is the biggest problem. And this bureaucracy, even in India, if the bureaucracy would not have been formed, we would have much more investors in India.
BHP, the world's biggest mining company in market value, is betting big on India. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, BHP's Chief Commercial Officer, Vandita Pant, said that the outlook for India is positive for the next few decades. She also expects a robust growth trajectory for India's steel sector.
Last year, India's production capacity is around 125 million tons. And just 2 years back, it was around 100. This year, we think it will be 134 million tons. So from a trajectory perspective, by end of this decade, India could be looking at, I think, aspiration to get to 300 million ton of production capacity. The way we look at mega trends of multi-decades, from a BHP perspective, we think it's very plausible, highly plausible, for India to be 450, 500 million ton steel production by 2050.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, we put the spotlight on the northeast. Mizoram feels the heat of the Manipur ethnic clashes. That and more on the other side. Stay tuned.
Take care of her, bro.
The kilometers you travel don't just measure distance, they measure life.
Skoda.
Welcome back. Manipur, Meghalaya and Mizoram. 3 states in the northeast are in headlines. Starting with Manipur, 7 people have been arrested in the horrific incident in which women were stripped naked, paraded, and one of them was gang raped. The 7th arrest was made last evening in Thoubal district. Police had earlier identified 14 people from the video who had participated in the disrobing of the 2 tribal women on May 4th. Meanwhile, sources in the army tell CNBC-TV18 that efforts are on to counter fake news and control disinformation. Even the local police have dedicated a rumor-free number. The state government has ordered conditional lifting of broadband internet suspension after 3 months. Let's now put the spotlight on Mizoram, where concerns about the Meitei community's safety are growing. The latest incident, 41 Meitei people have reached Assam from Mizoram after an ex-militants group asked the community to leave the state following the viral video of Manipur women. Thousands of people from Meitei and Kuki communities fled Manipur and have been living in neighbouring states like Assam, Mizoram and Nagaland since ethnic violence erupted in that state on May 3rd. Let's now tell you about Meghalaya, where a mob surrounded the Chief Minister's office, leading to 5 security personnel getting injured. The CM was unharmed. As we speak, there's a curfew in the Tura region, which is one of the largest towns in the state. Garo Hills-based civil society groups have been on a hunger strike, demanding a winter capital in Tura and clearance of backlogged jobs meant for the Garo community.
This is a kind of unexpected situation that has unfolded. But nonetheless, the police has controlled the situation. We had some incidents where, because of the store pelting, without any instigation from the police, almost close to 5 police personnel were quite seriously injured, and few other minor injuries also were there. And from my side, I have decided that I'll be giving 50,000 rupees as medical allowance to each one of them.
And the Manipur violence continued to disrupt parliament proceedings on the 4th day today. Amid the chaos, the Lok Sabha passed the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Amendment Bill, which aims to boost transparency and accountability of cooperative societies. Home Minister Amit Shah said he was ready for a discussion, but opposition parties are insisting on Prime Minister Modi's statement on the issue. Opposition parties are also expected to move a no-confidence motion against the Modi government.
मैंने आज दोनों सदन के विपक्ष के नेता को पत्र लिखा है कि कितनी भी लंबी चर्चा के लिए मैं तैयार हूं। सरकार को कोई डर नहीं है। चर्चा जिसको करनी है मणिपुर पर, वो चर्चा करने आए। हमें कुछ छुपाना नहीं है। जनता के खौफ को ध्यान में रखे और मणिपुर जैसे संवेदनशील इश्यू पर चर्चा के लिए उचित माहौल सदन में बनाइए, ऐसी मेरी विनंती है।
It's not just city roads and farmlands that have been inundated with water due to the recent spate of heavy rainfall across large areas of the country. Crucial infrastructure like bridges, ports and airports have also become crippled. CNBC TV18's Danish Anand reports on 2 airports that have had to suspend operations till the waterlogging eased and runways became operational again.
It doesn't matter whether it's a metro or rural India. Sites like these have been common in most regions in India in the wake of the recent spate of heavy rainfall. The flood-like situation has disrupted operations at critical infrastructure as well. Ahmedabad's Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, which is managed by Adani Airport, is one such casualty. Heavy rainfall on Saturday resulted in heavy waterlogging in and around the ATC office, arrivals and departures terminals, and pickup points. Tweets by passengers show people wading through knee-deep water, holding footwear in their hands. Passengers who landed at the airport and had to wait to the apron to board a bus face an average delay of 20 to 30 minutes to the airport exit process. In a statement, the airport blamed this on the unprecedented heavy rainfall witnessed by the city. 59 millimeters of rainfall in just 4 hours. It maintains that operations continued without any major disruptions, with T1 and T2 seeing normal operations. T4, it says, was waterlogged for a few hours, but it had no passenger traffic at the time, and all the water was drained out by 2 a.m. The airport adds that to mitigate waterlogging in the future, it has increased resources, it has deployed special manpower to help passengers, and installed more water pumps to quickly drain any waterlogging caused by excessive rainfall. The newly inaugurated Veer Savarkar International Airport in Andaman and Nicobar Islands also faced a tough time in the recent rains, which are accompanied by strong winds of up to 100 km per hour. This led to a false ceiling collapsing outside the airport terminal. While this looks set to turn political, Civil Aviation Minister Sandhya says the affected structure stands outside the terminal building and fell because it had been deliberately loosened earlier for scheduled installation of CCTV cameras. It's not just a couple of airports that have been affected. Train schedules have been affected as well. This puts the government's ambitious infrastructure targets under stress. Experts say the government will have to revisit and strengthen systems to deal with heavy rainfall and other climatic events at all its infrastructure projects to ensure future events are handled without hiccups or posing a danger to users. In New Delhi, this is Danish Anand for CNBC TV18.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour.
More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.